And we want to thank David Jones, sorry for the connection problems, MTA board member and president of Community Service Society of New York. That does it for our show. Democracy Now! Is currently accepting applications for a director of development. Learn more at democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks so much for joining us.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them and are not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of the Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 90.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Hello to all of our listeners on KFAI and around the world at kfai.org. I want to remind you that you can also check us out across other streaming platforms. We are live on YouTube, two YouTube platforms, one for the Black Press of America, one for Insight News. We're live on Facebook, 3 platforms, Insight News, Al McFarlane, and Black Press USA. We're live on Twitter, and we're live on LinkedIn. And no matter where you're connecting, we want to say thanks to you for checking us out and supporting us. We ask you to support us by subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. There's your notifications when we go live for different programs. And you subscribe by going to the YouTube/Insight News. Hit subscribe, share, and like. Thank you so much. Also, let us know where you are. You can comment on either of those platforms, and we'll see your comments. So shout out yourself, your friends, your neighborhood, your issues, your victories, and your disappointments. You can do that in the comment section. We'd also from time to time are able to invite you into the conversation. So again, thank you for listening. We are so happy to be part of the KFAI family, and particularly happy to follow Amy Goodman. Her show is always on point and inspiring, and it sets a high bar for us. And we want to rise to the challenge to be relevant, to be clear, to be concise, and to be valuable to you. That's what our mission is, to be of value, of service to you. Well, we begin the program Tuesdays with our conversation with our sports editor, Coach Leah Denley. Coach Leah, good afternoon. Welcome. Good to see you again, my friend. And you're in town now. Usually you're in Texas, but you're here in Minnesota.
I am. Oh my gosh, the weather is fantabulous. I think we just ordered it just for me, right? It's so beautiful here.
Versus
so
what was
to
it?
be here.
Versus what was it in Texas?
Oh goodness. So let's just start with the heat index at about 110, between 105 and 110. And so the temperature has been ranging anywhere between 95 and 98 and all the things. And then you think, growing up here, whenever it's warm, because, people forget that our summers are actually really nice, really, and a lot of days are actually hot. But when the sun goes down, the temperature will go down about 20 degrees, not in Texas at all. So it was so funny. So like my first few months there, I moved there August of 2009, and that time has just flown by. But I remember going, "Oh, it is so hot here." Okay, well, when it cools, it's going to cool down in the evening, right? So, but anyway, I'm so glad to be here, and I'm going to be in town covering the USA gymnastics Olympic trials. And so I'm very excited about that. And so if you're anywhere in the Twin Cities, you're going to see glimpses of the marketing, of the welcome to the Twin Cities, of, USA gymnastics. And, it's just a great time. Minnesota knows how to do a really good job with their sports and events. And I want to give a shout out to Lisa Lissamore. We was talking to her the other day, and she always has her finger in the things, happening in sports. And I'm so glad because, her wisdom and just her, just being in the room with some of those conversations, it makes the biggest difference because she's such the ultimate and consummate professional when it comes to sports and athletics and representing the state of Minnesota. She has retired from the Minnesota State High School League, but she still is in the middle of everything. So I wanted just to talk all things Olympics today, but I'm going to give a little bit of a tease because in addition to, of course, everything going on with the getting prepared for Olympics in Paris, there is a person that just would happen to be the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, that just would happen to be the head coach of USA Basketball, or I'm sorry, the Olympic team for USA Basketball, in the name of Cheryl Reeves. And so we're going to be able to give her flowers and give her some shine and talk about what she is going to bring to the table with USA Basketball to bring the gold. We're hoping, I believe it's the 8th straight gold medal for women's USA Basketball. And so be looking forward to that. I'll have my dear, dear friend, Leah B. Olson, in to talk with us about that in the coming weeks. And we really want to highlight that because that's a pretty big deal. It is a pretty big deal to be selected as the head coach of USA Basketball. So let's flip back to gymnastics right now. So by the numbers, USA Gymnastics has done these things, okay? They have collectively won 92 medals in Olympic or World Championship competitions. 13 of those athletes have been Olympic team members. 13 athletes have been Olympic team members. There'll be 8 and then 5 alternates. You've got 23 World Championship roster members. You've got 20 athletes who have won medals at either the Olympic Games or the World Championships. You've got 16 athletes who have won a combined, it's a whopping 74 U.S. titles. Okay, so Al, I want you to take a guess as to, no, you can just tell me this. Do you think that Simone Biles is the oldest gymnast for the women's team? Oh, I can't hear you.
Got it. I unmuted there. I think she is still relatively young, and there has to be some people that are senior to her still active in the sport. That's what I would guess. What's the matter?
Okay, so she is actually the oldest.
Really?
She is actually, isn't that amazing? It's incredible. So her birthday is 3/14/1997. She probably wouldn't love us telling everybody her business like that.
So she's 26. She's 26. 28. How old is she?
She is 26 years old. 27.
Okay.
She just turned 27
Okay.
back in March. Yes. Okay. At 27, that's still a baby, right? But she is the oldest on the women's side. Okay. And then you would be surprised to know that the youngest gymnast, her name is Zoe Molomo, was born July 11th of 2008. Incredible.
She's what, 14?
Yep. Yep. So the crazy thing about that is these young women and men, boys and girls, say that start so young, and many of them literally know back then that they want to compete at the elite level. And so, I mean, and just imagine how well conditioned Simone Biles has to remain to be winning the way that she is as well, because I will tell you, I mean, she is just surprising everybody with still new moves and just perfection, you know?
I watched her on a news show the other night, and nothing short of astounding. I mean, amazing. It seems like she's doing the impossible, especially when you see how high she leaps. I mean, she was doing a somersault off the mat, and she had to be twice her height. Her body up over where her head is, right, and making the flip and landing. There were more things like that that just seemed pure magic. And so I said, man, she's such a small person, human being, but she must be pure power and purely aware of the mechanics, the physics, and the energetic spirit that have to all combine to produce flawlessness, because her performance is flawless, it seems to me.
It's flawless. And I know for a lot of people that have to score her gymnastic, tumbles and things, because so many of them are so new, a lot of times they're like, wait, did she just do that? Is that humanly possible? And that's what's so fun about watching her. And I will tell you, she stands on the shoulders of. I want to mention Dominique Dawes, who's in town. I'm hoping so much. And keep our fingers crossed. Pray all the things that I'll be able to get an interview with her one-on-one while she's here. She's in town, obviously to lend her expertise and to all the festivities, as well as be commentating on the gymnastics events that are here. But she was here several years ago. If you listeners and viewers here today can remember the Young Women's Issues Forum that was hosted by the Twin Cities chapters of the Links. I used to do a breakout session during those events, and one year we had Dominique Dawes that came in and was the keynote address speaker for that day. And one of the attendees, who I'm really close friends with, she happens to be my god sister, showed me a picture just last night of her getting an autograph from Dominique Dawes. And she was just like, big sis, oh my God, I still have this picture. And I was like, what? And I will tell you, those are the things that these should be the stories that we're telling. These should be the why. It shouldn't just be about the athleticism and things of that nature, but it should also be about the humanistic value of being a role model. And so I thought that was so cool that she remembered that. And, of course, she's a grown woman with children of her own now. But that day made such an impact on her, and she still has that picture all these years later. And so I thought that was really cool. So, Dominique Dawes was, has paved the way for a Simone Biles. And it's just really cool to just be in the midst of knowing that and just watching this greatness happen.
Well, I brought this up last week, and maybe this is a good time to bring it up or to ask you to give me some education. How does an artist or an athlete like Simone Biles make money? How does she make a living in this? And would you call her amateur, or would you call her a professional?
She's absolutely a professional. And I will tell you another little tidbit about how much they make. So Nicole Robinson, who is the marketing director for Miel Organics, she attended McAllister College, and she's the niece of an icon here, Earl Bowman. If people from the sports world know who he is, he was also a community leader in his own right. Was telling me that, boy, they would love to, get a gymnast, but they can't afford Simone Biles. So that's just to let you know that this is a worldwide, global product. They are in the hair care industry primarily, and they cannot afford Simone Biles to have her name in image and likeness. And we'll do a whole thing about that in the future. But so that just gives you an idea of how they make money, like how they make a living.
It's like appearances and endorsements, right?
Endorsement, appearances.
Do they win prizes at the events?
Say that again.
Do they win prizes at events? So if they're competing for like a national medal, do they win money at all?
So they don't
Or
really. So they wouldn't win money for that unless it's a special event where there is prize money for the winners, right?
okay,
But there was a young lady who I was reading about that was on tour with the Simone Biles. I can't remember the exact name of that tour, but so now those tours would make money. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because each city they go to, it costs money to go to that event, right?
Right. But they get part of the gate. It's like a show to show them.
Exactly. Then other people would market, or other people would want to advertise or market or be attached to that event. You know, they would get a title sponsor and things of that nature. Well, there's revenue sharing for that. You know, there's that revenue share, and depending on how, she's very savvy. So depending on how she did her particular contract for that event, I'm sure that she was able to reap financial benefits from every aspect of that tour as well.
Well,
So
I see her in U.S. Bank commercials. Like I bank on West Broadway at the U.S. Bank, and while you're there at the teller window, there's in the the displays behind the tellers, sometimes video, and it's Simone, and what a beautiful smile, and just what warm and inviting energy. So she's the right person for the job because she just gives you a good feeling looking at her, and in the back of your mind, knowing that hers is a story of persistence and accomplishment and a story of excellence, and she's inviting you into this business. So I can see why they chose a Simone Biles to bring their message to consumers. That's great.
Absolutely. Another side story that I think you might find very interesting in our viewers. I know that you guys do a segment with health and wellness on Fridays, which, by the way, I think I need to come and what do you call it? Crash that party here soon.
Yeah, anytime. You know you're welcome.
Thank you. I am a certified mental health coach and advocate, and I don't hold that that title lightly at all, because just so much of how we're able to just be has to do with our health and wellness. And so when Simone Biles decided to step out of competition at the previous Olympics, everybody just had all these things to say, all these things about her mental toughness and blah 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 and all this and other. But look, she has just been able to, because of that decision, she has been able to sustain her career, and not only just her mental health, but her physical health, by making that decision. And people that are just not elite athletes don't understand the very strong correlation between the two.
What was the previous superstar Black woman gymnast? Was it Gabby? Is that her name, Gabby?
Gabby Douglas. Yes.
How is she? Is she still competing? What is she doing? What's her story right now?
So I believe that she was doing some competing. I don't believe she's at this event. I will find out because I haven't got the full roster of all the competitors yet. But I will. Matter of fact, when I jump off of this, I'm running down to go pick up my credentials and get all of my notes together so I can map out, my coverage for the next few days. But yeah, so that was Gabby Douglas, and she, again, is just somebody who did not. Did an amazing job representing the USA, domestically as well as internationally, but, knows the importance of how they represent themselves, especially in the sport of gymnastics. There's just there's so many barriers that have nothing to do with being the athlete that you have to, deal with when you're in this sport. So, I'm so excited to cover this event. I was gonna wear my Tall Girls United T-shirt today, but I don't, I just don't know if this would be the right audience for that.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm speaking with Insight News sports editor, Coach Leah Jean M. Denley. And not only is she a former athlete and educator, but she's a motivator, entrepreneur, and as she's just disclosed, a professional in mental health. Coach Leah, before you leave, again, thank you for hanging out with me. Enjoy these conversations. And yes, I invite you to join us on Fridays for the Healing Circle, because the focus there is mental health. And how do we own that? And how do we talk about it among us in our community, get beyond the stigma of saying, somebody thinking somebody gonna think we crazy when we crazy. you you may as well own it and live it and keep moving, right?
Right.
But
it's okay to be. It's okay to not be. What did I say? It's okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
It means you're human. It means you're a human being. Well, before we go, I wanted you to once again let people in our community know how they can connect and either watch or listen to or attend some of the gymnastic trials at Target Center.
Okay, well, so everything USA Olympic trials will be at Target Center. The bulk of the competition will start on Thursday, but there's so many other ancillary events that people can attend as well, that are of no charge. There's a tumbling event, or not a tumbling event, but it's like a kid zone for gymnastics that's going to be that's downtown. They've got the Simone Zone. I think they named it after her. There's something like that. Let's see. I'm just checking my notes real quick that I can just share something with you for sure. Please, I would be remiss to not speak about Suni Lee, who is from the Twin Cities as well. Oh my God. She's I believe she's going into her senior year at Auburn, but she will be here competing to find a spot on the U.S. Gymnastics team as well. And so, big, huge shout out to her. I really, really enjoy not even watching her compete, but just listening to her and how she just represents herself and U.S. Olympics, our communities here in the Twin Cities. She doesn't take that lightly at all. And so I love that.
She medaled in the last Olympics, right?
She did. So she has she has won Olympic medals in 20. She has 3, by the way. And for the American athletics, 20, and now there's a UB. I've got to find out what UB means, but she's got 20 of those as well, or 20 appearances. I'm sorry. So these are appearances, and then those are the medals that she's won. And so, and then we got to mention Jordan Childs. She's another one of our Brown sisters, and so she'll be here as well. I was telling Lisa the other day that I hope the head coach from Fisk University is here. She's got the first. She's the first HBCU to have a gymnastics program at Fisk University. And to my knowledge, they are also the first to have won, they've medaled in NCAA competition as well. So shout out to them at Fisk University as well.
Coach Leah, thank you so much. So good to see you. And, enjoy your covering this important sports activity here in Twin Cities this week.
Very good. Thank you. Check us out on Insight News Sports, but also be sure to check out our platforms. I'm Coach Leah. You can follow me, Coach Leah 40 on IG and X, and just, holler at us. Send us an email, coachlee@insightnews.com. Anything that you want to know, anything that you want us to cover, send us, write in the chat, send us an email, and we'll get on it. Thanks, Al.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. We continue. And what I want to do is go through some of the headlines that are in the community right now. For example, in, I think, today's Star Tribune, there's a story by Liz Sawyer and Dave Orrick that focuses on proposed police contract for the city of Minneapolis. The headline says, "Public to weigh in as City Council considers proposed Minneapolis police contract and pay raises." And it basically says that the 22% raise in pay is being called critical to recruitment and retention, that by both the mayor and the chief of police. But opponents to the pay raise say the department still lacks accountability. So there has to be a connection. The article says that Minneapolis leaders are weighing whether to sign off on a new police contract that grants officers historic wage increases, bumping starting salaries past that of some of the nation's largest law enforcement agencies in a desperate effort to rebuild its dwindling ranks. And the proposed contract will guarantee about a 22% pay raise for veteran officers by next summer, and a boost starting salaries for rookies fresh out of the academy to over $90,000 a year. That sum surpasses comparable wages of New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. But Mayor Jacob Fry and Chief Brian O'Hara say that the raises are critical to attracting quality recruits, to retaining experienced officers, and to restoring public trust amid a court-mandated set of reforms that seek to overhaul the embattled department in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder. At a minimum, this is open quote, at a minimum, you deserve to be among the highest paid officers in this state, period. Close quote. That's what O'Hara, Police Chief O'Hara, told the rank and file officers in April. And when he did, he emphasized that officers deserve a labor agreement that clearly recognizes the demands, the dangers, and the unparalleled level of scrutiny that they are under right now. It's a good article. It's a longer article, but it's a topic that's important. If you have thoughts, you want to weigh in on that topic, let me know what you think. It would be interesting to have some conversation about that. Then in other articles here, let me see what I've got in addition to pull up here. Here's a piece on, this is kind of, something that's really important, and this is about the Supreme Court. And this is a report from CNN, and it's regarding the Supreme Court upholding the law that prevents and possessing firearms. So as soon as I load that up, I'll share a part of that with you. And this is a piece that I think ran on the 21st, so last week or earlier this week. And it was on CNN. The title of the article is that Supreme Court upholds law barring domestic abusers from owning guns in a major Second Amendment ruling. It's an article by John Fritz, who's a CNN reporter, and it was last updated on Friday, June 21st. And the article says that the Supreme Court upheld a federal law that bans or that bars guns for domestic abusers. And in doing so, it rejected an argument pressed by gun rights groups that the prohibition violated the Second Amendment. In an 8-1 decision in one of the court's most close cases, the court limited the scope of the blockbuster ruling that justices handed down 2 years ago that prompted a flood of legal challenges to other gun laws across the nation. The decision, which placed most of the court's conservatives and liberals on the same side, could help shore up similar federal gun regulations that have been challenged since the Supreme Court vastly expanded gun rights in 2022, at least in situations where a criminal defendant is considered dangerous. The court's 2022 ruling caused substantial confusion for lower court judges reviewing the Second Amendment lawsuits. The article goes on to say that Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority, said the court had no trouble coalescing around the idea that an individual who poses a threat can be denied access to weapons. Open quote, our tradition of firearm regulation allows the government to disarm individuals who present a credible threat to the physical safety of others, Chief Justice Roberts wrote. He also pushed back on the idea that the decision 2 years ago in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin had locked lower courts into striking down any gun law that didn't have a direct historic analog. Roberts said that some lower courts had misunderstood the methodology of our recent Second Amendment cases. So that's interesting. That 8-1 ruling, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, Justice Clarence Thomas was the justice that was the lone dissenting voice there. And another local story here is a couple of pieces here on Ukraine that I'll share with you. But a local story that was reported, it's kind of sad, on KSTP. And this was updated about an hour ago. It's a story by Morgan Redekop at KSTP. And the headline says a 32-year-old is charged with hiding the body of a Minneapolis woman. So the article says a 32-year-old Iowa woman was charged on Tuesday with concealing the body of Liara Tsai, 35, of Minneapolis. Court records show that Margot Lewis made her first appearance in Olmsted County Court Tuesday morning. According to a criminal complaint, authorities were called to a one-vehicle crash at the intersection of I-90 and Highway 42 in Olmsted County on Saturday. Based on tire tracks, authorities believe that the driver, identified as Lewis, was speeding eastbound on I-90 when she went into the median. Bystanders told responding deputies that there appeared to be a deceased or injured person in the car. Inside, deputies found a body wrapped in a bed sheet, a blanket, a futon-style mattress, and a tarp, court documents said. The person, later identified as Tsai, was obviously deceased, and authorities said she didn't seem to have been killed in the crash. She was cold to the touch, and there was dried blood on the blanket. Investigators later found a large wound on the right side of her neck. Lewis was medically cleared at the hospital, then booked into Olmsted County Jail. She did not respond audibly to law enforcement. So the medical examiner confirmed on Sunday that Tsai was killed before the car crash. And Monday evening, Minneapolis police and members of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension executed a search warrant at Tsai's home on 16th Street East and found a scene that indicated violence. They have not announced any arrest for Tsai's death. That's a sad story. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Again, we thank you for being with us and joining the program. And no matter where you are, if you got comments, thoughts, shout us out, shout out your ideas, and we'd be glad to share those with you. I want to pivot now to my next guest for the balance of the program. It's a new person that I'm just meeting, and Gatsby Frimpong is here. I think I'm saying the name right. Brother yeah, I think that's right, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Let me share. Gatsby Frimpong is the co-founder and CEO of Gatsby TV, a tech company that has developed an indispensable app that offers a fun new way to discover television shows and movies. The platform brings all your streaming services into one place where they can be easily searched with detailed info, including ratings from IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. The Gatsby TV app can also quickly tell you where to rent, stream, or buy your favorite films or television titles. According to their user surveys, most people spend up to 30 minutes trying to find something to watch. And wouldn't it be great to cut through all that and have the assistance of an app that makes that, reduces the time it takes to get to something that you want to watch? Well, Gatsby TV app is also bridging the gap between screens and social lives. It launched just a few months ago, and right now, 100,000 users are onto the application, and it lets you see what individuals you follow have recently watched, and allows you to send recommendations of shows and movies to friends. The company is taking those online or offline conversations that we always have with each other, the offline conversations that we often have with each other about what we're watching, and bringing them together for you on any device. So it's an awesome service. Well, Brother Gatsby, Frimpong is here. Gatsby, how you doing? Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Frimpong, Ghanaian name?
Yeah, that's my mother's last name, and I fortunately got her name. Unless I would have had a name like Johnson, and it just would have been like every other person. So yeah.
Okay, and Frimpong, is that probably Fanti community or
Yes,
do you know? Is it
it's Ashanti. Yeah, so Fanti, Ashanti. Yeah,
Ashanti? Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
cool. Well, tell me about Gatsby TV. I've read a little bit in the bio, but you tell me more. What
Yeah.
all this means and what the value is that you're bringing to the marketplace.
Yeah, no problem at all. I feel like you spoke about it so eloquently and so well. I'm about to hire you for marketing because I think you hit the nail on the head. Essentially, we put the app together because like millions of Americans and probably billions of people, to be quite honest, you get home after a long day of work and you say, okay, I just finished dinner. I'm about to go to bed in a few hours, but I just kind of want to relax and watch something on TV. And what we had come to find out is that this process of trying to find something is actually really frustrating for people.
And tiring.
Yeah, exactly. And it shouldn't be, because a lot of what people are doing when it comes to entertainment and watching TV in particular is escapism. They want to get in a certain mood, whether it's relaxing or they want to be excited, they want to watch something fun. And when we sit down and we actually do the discovery process of looking for something, it's something that is actually quite arduous for us. It's like, okay, I kind of in the mood for this, but can't quite find what I want, or I've already watched that before. And so what we're trying to do is make that process as simple, seamless, and easy as possible for people so they can find what they want to watch on all the various streaming video on demand platforms they have.
So where'd the idea come from? What you have an aha moment or a light bulb go off, and how did this originate with you?
Yeah, so how it originated was at the time my girlfriend and I, we would sit down, again, like after a long day of work, and we would kind of have this contentious situation where we go back and forth. She'd want to watch something, I'd want to watch something, and I basically said, "Look, I'm not watching Friends again. I just can't," And it was this moment for me. I said, why is my relationship like kind of in a way like hinging on, and also like the low point of my relationship always seems to be us arguing over TV shows to watch. And so at the time I was working in technology, and I said, I work on technology in my 9 to 5, and I was working as an engineer at the time. Maybe I can come up with something or build something to help us find something we want to watch on TV easier, so that process before watching something is a little more seamless. And so, at first it was just an idea. It was just sort of like a thought, and then it turned into a deck, and then it turned into a little bit of programming, then it turned into a company. And I've kind of been, I would almost say it got to a point where I felt like pregnant with the idea. Like I was always carrying it around with me, no matter what I was doing, no matter where I was. It's something that was just with me. I was thinking about, and I said, it's a small problem. I'm not trying to save the world in terms of something with sustainability or something like that, right? But I do think it's a problem that we all share, and it's a point in our evenings, this point in our life that should only be about joy, sitting down, connecting with others, and relaxing.
Okay, so you've addressed a problem, you found a problem to solve and come up with an answer. And 100,000 users already, that's huge, it seems to me. What's your goal, and are you surprised at the reception? How long has the product been available, and how much time did it take to get to 100,000 users?
Yeah, so my goal is for it to be a billion person app or more. And in terms of being surprised, not at all, because whenever I speak to people about this specific problem, I'm yet to meet someone who says I've never encountered that, right? It's amazing to me, because in the English speaking world, we have over 500,000 TV shows and movies for us to watch. And even if you watched a movie or TV show every day for your entire life, you wouldn't even get through 5% of the catalog of stuff that's available out there. So I say to myself, honestly, and this is part of the goal of the company, is no one should ever sit down and watch something bad, right? There's just far too much content out there. But because there's so much content out there, that's why people are having such a hard time finding things to watch on TV, because it's not that we don't have a selection. We actually have too much selection, and sifting through it is really difficult at times. So yeah, I think that the sky's the limit for this company, and we're solving a small problem, but across
so then how does your app help the person? So like you said, I'm coming home from work, end of the day, I want to chill out for a couple of hours and watch TV. I got a choice of getting the channel guide and taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes, trying to decide, do I want to watch this? Is it on yet? Or what does Gatsby TV do for me to simplify my life and get me into the relaxed zone quicker, easier?
Yeah, no problem. So it's interesting. One thing you said is like the TV guide or channel guide. And what's interesting about that is that doesn't exist for streaming. And that's how people tend to watch things nowadays, is video on demand, right?
Okay.
So you don't even have something that will kind of at least show you what's available. And the other thing actually I want to make sure and impart on people is one thing that we also believe is for whatever reason in interviewing people, we believe that search is objective. People believe search is unbiased, but if you're searching for something on Google or Apple TV, they're probably trying to get you to buy something on iTunes. They're probably trying to get you to buy something via the Google Play Store. And that's why there's this underlying frustration people tend to get with these sorts of platforms that allegedly give you like an unfiltered view of everything. So to answer your question directly, how we change things is in a world with algorithms, AI, everyone counts on computers to solve our problems. But what we've come to find out via our research is how people tend to find TV shows and movies is via recommendations from friends and family members. So the idea here is this, is the next time you're at the water cooler, you're at brunch or at lunch, whatever it may be, and someone says, have you seen X show? Have you seen Y movie? You can say, no, I haven't. Send it to me as a recommendation in the Gatsby app. And when you sit down that evening and you're looking for something to watch, it'll actually have all the recommendations that you've got from friends and family members all in one place for you.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And that would be awesome to apply for books as well. But you're doing digital and electronics right now. So tell me about your own personal journey as an entrepreneur. Like you said, you started off with just a question and then kind of a deck, and then you moved to creating the app, and now you've got a business. Walk us through that project. What's your training, your background that puts you in this path in the first place?
Yeah, so my background is I've worked at most of the big, I would say 5 technology companies out there: Apple, Microsoft, Google, in engineering roles, product engineering roles, and product roles as a whole. So I'm in the tech industry. I know engineering, I know software engineering, I know DevOps, I know all those things. And I went to, or I am going actually right now to Stanford University. I'm also concurrently going to University of California, Berkeley for master's degrees. And those are in engineering also. And my undergraduate education was at Coastal Carolina University in South Carolina. And that was actually in economics, so more of like a business background. And for me, all these things combined, the business side of things, the technology side of things, the industry side of things, has given me a unique set of skills, which give me both business acumen and then technical acumen in order to go execute. And so I said to myself, if I have all these skills, I believe I'm hardworking, I believe I'm smart, why is it that I'm creating all this value for these, multi-billion, actually not even billion, they're trillion-dollar companies now? If I believe that I'm motivated, smart, and I have skills, etc., why don't I capture some of that value for myself, my family members, my friends, etc., and go ahead and create my own business? And so that's essentially what I did. And right now, in terms of funding and looking for funding, we're currently looking for funding. We're students at Stanford University. We're reaching out to VC. So anyone who's listening today who's interested, knock on my door. Gatsby@gatsby.tv is the email address.
Okay, so it's like venture capital is what you're looking for right now, investment. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how does your organization or your app? Well, Jack, how do you create an app? I'm just curious because I'm not a techie at all. How does a person?
Yeah, I think a lot of people
come up with writing an app, creating an app.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in the technical side of it. I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to simply just execution and just grinding, putting the work in. I think that a lot of people say, I can't do this, I can't do that, whether it be anything, because they don't think that they have the skills. But, even Michael Jordan at one day had never shot a basketball, right? Or Tiger Woods had never hit a golf ball. You got to go out you got to start some point at some time. And yes, being a NBA Finals MVP or being a Masters winner is extremely difficult. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to get that level of acumen, but at least being good enough to play in a pickup game or in a scramble with folks is actually getting yourself in the door, right? Because then what ends up happening is when you start to build this set of skills, you start to be part of a community, start to know people, start to figure out what you like, dislike, how to automate things. And so for me, answering your question a little more directly, it's just saying to myself, hey, I want to build something. Let me come up with a slide deck showing people how this thing looks. Okay, now I have a slide deck. Let me see if I can find something online that's low code, that I don't really need coding experience, that allows me to do like a video demo, etc. And as you start to do that, what I've come to find out is I kind of call it like a cult to some degree, because you have to be evangelizing at all times, telling people like, this thing's the best, this thing is going to help people, etc. And what you slowly start to do is you find people with the skills you need who gravitate towards you to help you along that journey. So this summer we have 3 wonderful interns from Stanford working with me on the journey, making it happen. I have a co-founder, and we're all using our various skills to get this thing done.
Okay. And are you familiar with the project called Narrative at all? Knarrative? Let me tell you about it. You should check out Narrative, and it has a companion site called Nubia, Knubia. And there's a sister named Dr. or Professor Karen Hunter. And she's like a serious superstar interviewer, journalist. She's written like 20 books, just really amazing and gifted. And she makes her living talking to people on Sirius Radio. But she was going to interview this guy named Professor Greg Carr, who was head of the Africana Studies Department at Howard University. And when she was doing the setup for the interview, he just started talking the way he normally does. And this brother is like genius level, gifted, Afrocentric. His whole life is about building a African way of knowing and sharing that for the development of our people anywhere on the planet. But he's an educator, right? He's also a lawyer. So they started talking. She said, hold it, before you say anything, can I push my record button and record the conversation? He said, sure, go ahead. And they talked. But that led to just this magic chemistry in conversation between the two of them, that they ended up starting a program that now is in the 230th or 40th week. So it's like 4 years almost, right? 3 years, 4 years. They've been meeting every Saturday in a program called In Class with Carr. And they have over 2,000, 3,000 people showing up every Saturday to be engaged in this conversation. But they used that conversation as the center, the core, to build a whole social media network that they called Narrative. So I'm going to just say that much about it because I think it's something that you probably would enjoy knowing about. And maybe that's one of the places that you could use to evangelize, to show people that are commonly or in common with you, headed towards, developing entrepreneurial and technology capabilities for personal and family and community benefit. And it's a way for maybe finding some people that would be companions on your journey. What is your journey? What is your goal? What if I ask you, when you were, say, 12 years old, what are you going to be when you grow up? What was the answer when you were 12? And if I ask you now that you say you might be 24, 25, I'm not sure, I'm guessing, what is the vision of what you're going to be 20, 30 years from now? So do 2 parts of that question. When you were 10, what were you going to be?
Yes. So when I was 10, I was planning to be the richest Black person to ever live. And at my current age, I'm still planning to be the richest Black person that's ever lived. It's never changed.
Okay. And so when did you first decide that's what you're going to do? And how did you come to decide that?
Yeah, I don't think I ever really remember a time not having this thought in my head. It's something that's been ingrained in me for a while. would say what led me to it is essentially just sort of like my background. I'm from Washington, D.C., lower income, all those types of things, just like typical Black American story in a lot of ways, to be quite honest. And at least like the media portrayed version of it. And yeah, I just always sort of said to myself, like, I don't understand why we're so poor. Like, I would like to be rich. And for me, there's different ways you can get rich. But what was really nice about like my specific journey is I moved from the city to the Northern Virginia suburbs. And a lot of my friends were white, and they had family members that were doing stuff like finance or in technology there and these types of things. And it was like really interesting because like I remember I had one friend in particular, his dad was a financial advisor, and he had like a Jaguar and a BMW and all these things. And like when you're 12 years old, this is like the coolest thing. And I think what was really cool about that experience is that it felt tangible. It didn't feel like it was hard. Like I knew someone who was doing it. I had direct access to him. He would tell me about what he was doing. He was a older white male, but to be quite honest, I think you can find your. I don't think that you need a specific type of person as a role model, as someone who can like show you the path. You just need someone. And so in a lot of ways, I always actually like think like, why would like an Italian American family or Irish American family like look at this Black kid and be like, hey, you can do this and do that. And so whatever led them to believe in me in that sort of way, it actually had a fundamental impact on me because they wanted to mentor me. They actually always encouraged me, always very positive. Like where even to this day, I remember I was messaging one of the fathers a couple months ago, and he said, we always knew that you were going to do well, and I really, I don't know. And I wonder, like, what is it about a 10-year-old that you can look at and say, like, this person's going to succeed versus, you look at another and say, hey, he's going to struggle. But I think, like, for me, at least if I can sort of reflect, I think the thing was that I was always hardworking. I always had like a pretty strong base level of like intelligence. And there's also another piece of it, which is not the IQ, but it was the EQ. It's like people saw in me that like he has the ability to hustle, be creative, and figure out things if things aren't going his way. And yeah, it's really, really helped.
So were you born in DC?
No, I was born in London, England. So I moved from one capital city to the other capital city.
Tell me about your family and your family's expectations of you. What's your lineage?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also a very interesting thing about going to a place like Stanford, because I think that at Stanford, there are a lot of people, to be quite honest, like when I look at them, I think from their families, the expectation was that they were always going to be there. There wasn't going to be an alternate path. They're either going to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, or Yale, or nothing. And so for me, it's interesting because, to be quite honest, I don't think that based on my background and family, there was really an expectation to go to a school like that or have outsized success in a way. And I think it's actually funny. I was talking to one of my friends about this. Like for me, my mother, I think a lot of times her success is just, I end up safe. I end up not in jail. I end up having kids. And like for her, that was just like going to be good enough. And so I think in a lot of ways, at least for me specifically, like not having that pressure of like, you need to go into this school, you need to get these grades and blah, blah. It really allowed me to just sort of focus on the things that really interested me. And if I wanted to go out and get it and like get into all these good schools and like do all these jobs, it was because I solely wanted to do it. Like when I think about sometimes the students at like schools like Stanford and Harvard, like I think it's very interesting that a 16-year-old would want to go to a school like that, because like what makes a 16-year-old, like you don't know anything about these schools, right? So like all comes from like the parents. And I think a lot of times actually it backfires where some of these students have like so much pressure from such an early age that I'm just like, wow, like I don't know if that's actually a good thing, right? Like maybe you're really smart and you got a 1600 SAT, but from the standpoint of my mother and what was important to her, she's like, are you a good family man? In a way was like what was important to her. Like, are you gonna, be faithful to your wife? Are you gonna raise children who are good? Like, it's not that one value system is better than another. Hey, if you want your kid only to get straight A's and a 1600, that's great. But I do think like sometimes in society, especially among millennials and Gen Zers, there's like something missing in terms of like family values, ethics, like just simple things like don't lie, like, work hard, don't take shortcuts. Like maybe in some ways I'm like old school like that. But I do think that in a lot of ways, there's a lot of things missing in American education, personal finance being one, and then ethics, like just on hey, this is how you treat people. This is what your value should be. That's missing too.
What about your lineage? You're born in London. Who were your grandparents and your grandparents' grandparents?
Yeah, so for me, I come from sort of a mixed background of like multiple different things: African Americans, Liberians, Ghanaians, and like one thing I tell people that's like really interesting about um, Africa that people don't realize is that there was, and the United States, I'm going to go off on a little bit of tangent here, and again, I was just talking about the education system in America that's really peculiar. Like one thing that's never taught, at least in my experience in American education, is the fact that there was an American colony in Africa called Liberia, and the first president was like from Virginia, and like just crazy things. Like they tried to colonize it, didn't work. All these things. They tried to repatriate the slaves back there and whatnot. So you end up with like my stepfather. His last name was Johnson. But his last name was Johnson because like they were African American slaves that repatriated back to Liberia, and so they're like African American, but African is like a really interesting
Was he out of Texas? Out of your grandfather from Texas or Virginia? Where was he? And when did they go back?
It's like this was probably even prior World War I. This is like 1800s. So distant enough that it was distant and like somewhat the story is like somewhat fuzzy enough to me, but at least with like the people who ended up being closer to me, like my stepfather and whatnot, like he ended up being born in Wimbledon, London, which is actually very strange for a Black person at that time in like the 1940s, like 1950s to be born at that time in London, England. And because they were African Americans that came through Liberia that ended up like going to England, they were actually part of like a different class of Africans, right? Because they're like educated. Like the African Americans that went to Liberia are actually kind of seen as like a higher class. It's caused a lot of issues there. Anyone who's listening to this, you should really look into the history of Liberia. It's absolutely insane. And a part of American history that, of course, I feel like Black American history doesn't really get taught the way it should, but it's a great piece of history. And then my mother, her side from Ghana, been in Ghana. I can't really tell you too much about it because it's just village story. They're just villagers. They're people in the mountains. Nothing too crazy about them. The British.
You've been there. You've been to Ghana.
Yeah. I went a very long time ago. I've been to Ghana, Tanzania, South Africa, Togo, and Africa's an interesting place to me. I could talk to you about that for a while too.
Well, we got 3 or 4 minutes still. Give me some information about Africa. I mean, I'm interested in Africa and technology and African people contributing to technology and towards what end. And the question I raise to you is how do we use technology and the ability to be with each other to move towards what we would commonly define as freedom or liberation of Black people? And is that an objective reality? Is it a worthy goal or not? Some people may say, the world is okay the way it is. I just need to figure out a way to get mine and to get on the good foot and keep stepping, right? But some people say the good foot for me is changing the entire process, and I can change it in a way that allows me to achieve my personal aspirations and goals, but also shares knowledge, power, and opportunity with other people that, like me, at one level or another, had at least lived on the margins of the outside of the plenty that America in particular and Europe in general hold up as something that they represent and that they own and control. What do you think?
Yeah. So I'd say I have a very hot take on this, which is probably an unpopular opinion, but I do think that Black folks in technology should not work on technology specifically for Black people, because what I've come to find out, actually, in my opinion, is that what's going on is that when we talk about entrepreneurs in the Black community, I feel as if what's going on with VCs and investors is they say, okay, we'll invest in you because you're working on this product for the Black diaspora, or you're working on this product that's helping Black people in X way or Y way. And then what ends up happening is that what you're essentially saying is that the only reason why you have any sort of skill I'm invested in is because you're simply Black and you know more about Black people. right? And it's like, no, like we're much more broad than that. We know about many other things outside of like just Black culture or Black tech or whatever it may be. Whereas like we could build a next Google. And so the problem that I believe I run into sometimes is they say like, look, if you're not in this like Black technology doing something for that group, then really like you have no advantage against anyone else. And so I would say that the future of like tech leaders within our space who are Black should just work on, like, if the Google founders said we're only going to be working on something for white people, like it wouldn't have been that big of a thing. Or Asian.
No, they kind of did, because that's the way the world looked at them. But look, down to 30 seconds. Where is Gatsby TV available? Is the app available now?
Yes, it's available now in the iOS App Store. It's also available in the Google Play Store. And I would say we'll agree to disagree. I don't think the Google founders did that. I worked at Google. I think that they're building a product for the masses. And again, my advice to people is stop working on Black tech specifically, because you're only typecasting yourself more.
Appreciate your conversation. Come back. Let's have some more talk. I'm Al McFarlane, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
No problem. I'll see you. Bye.